So I guess I would like to, finish off what happened with my father. Me and my sister got into that mean argument because when she's under a lot of stress, she gets irrational, and she was just saying a bunch of stuff to me that honestly didn't make sense, because when she gets like that, she imposes her feelings onto you, and then her feelings become facts, So I did apologize to her the next day because I don't want to fight with her. She was crying. She was, so stressed out. She wasn't sleeping, and I didn't want to be the cause of her stress. And I called, well, we were texting actually, because she was just so busy running around. I mean, she really, really hurt my feelings. The package, basically the package to them was crap. I mean, my father hasn't spoken to me in 7 years. He chose not to talk to me in 7 years. And I sent him that olive branch with a note saying I love him, with, CDs to help him with the pain, and basically she said it was crap. Didn't mean anything. And that really, really hurt my feelings. But I apologized to her. I know she's under a lot of stress. And I didn't apologize to her because I didn't do anything wrong, but I just said, look, I don't want to fight with you anymore. I love you, and I realize that you're under a tremendous amount of stress, because somehow everything fell on her lap because my other half sister retreated from the situation. And I'll tell you why in a sec. The thing is that when my father had cancer in the past, and it was the best case scenario. It was treated, taken out, 3 weeks, 3 to 6 weeks, he was fine. I think 3 weeks of chemo, and he was fine. He didn't even lose his hair. I mean, it was like the best case scenario. But he had asked my half sister to be the executor, I guess you could say, of his estate. Nothing big. He didn't really own much. But to him, that was important for some reason, that who gets what. And he was very secretive, and again, because of his affairs. And my full sister, my middle sister, as I'm the oldest, she was really upset that he did that and didn't even talk to any of us about it. The children that, he lived with, actually. But I thought that when everything fell on her, that she would be happy about it. But she's been like that in the past, where she wants something, and then when she gets it, it overwhelms her. So, I just said, look, I don't want to fight anymore. I realized you're under a lot of stress. If she was crying, she said she wasn't sleeping. So I didn't want to add to that. So, over the week, my family was still on my case. And I was like, the more they got on my case, the more pissed off I was getting. Because I'm like, this man, I'm his child. When you have a child, you do anything for them. You would die for them. It's not like I'm a stranger. It's not like I'm anybody else. I'm his child. And he even regretted, him and his brother had this long time feud. For 20 years they didn't speak, and he said he regretted not talking to his brother. So why are you not talking to your own child? My older sister died at birth. I was the wanted. I mean, it's one of those things where you're pregnant, you get married, but I was the wanted child. I was planned. There's pictures of him holding me and loving me. I mean, I was the first born, planned, wanted child. And that's how you're going to treat me. And, and that's the thing, that my father treated my sister, the psychiatrist, a certain way. He treated my half-sister a certain way. She was like the favorite of his. Raised in a different environment, very, very level-headed, loving mother, whereas my mom is crazy. And so he spent more time with my half-sister than he did with us. And when he introduced her to us, I mean, I accepted her. My brother accepted her, and I never thought of her as a half-sister. But for explanation purposes, I would have to say it that way. And my half-sister was an only child, and she had the only child syndrome, and she was upset that I had something of my father's that she didn't, and she wanted really badly, for whatever I call her the spoiled brat right now mentality. And I wouldn't give her that information because my father told me not to. So she stopped talking to me. And then after I left New York, my father was mad at me, and he was not very nice to me. And that was going on for a long time. Every time my father called me, it was to make me cry. He would play the guilt trip. He would play manipulation games to try to get me to come back, from my grandmother's dying to leave my husband. I was like, well, are you going to put me up somewhere? I'm going to leave my husband? Because I went through a divorce once, and I'm not doing that to my kids again. I did it with my oldest. It didn't turn out well. I'm not doing that to my two youngest, and I love my husband to death. So I'm like, you want me to leave him so I could come to New York and be with you, and you visited me maybe once every 2 months? Oh, you took my grandchildren away. I mean, just every time he called, that's how it was. And so he just started becoming more and more standoffish to me. He would make me feel like I'm this little thing, piece of crap, always make me cry. But yet when I went to New York, he was always happy to see me, and I would go to New York once a year. And then finally, this was when I busted my knee. I don't think I was doing YouTube videos at the time. I fell and I busted my knee. And I was in a wheelchair and walking on a cane for over a month. And I went to New York like that because I really, really, my husband was trying to get a job out there. And I'm telling you, it was God that we didn't get a job out there. My husband was trying to go into Pennsylvania, New York, Delaware, New Jersey, we went for 2 weeks. He was just out there trying to get a job. And I was there, with my leg propped up. It was the last day we were there. My baby, for you idiots who say, I mistreated my dog. My baby, my Sonny came with us everywhere. I didn't want to leave him with a sitter. I was afraid he would bite her, number one. Number two, he would die of anxiety, and we would die of anxiety. So he came with us everywhere. That's why we used to go to Red Roof Inn, because they allowed pets. Now, well, we don't have any money to go away anymore, but after that incident with Red Roof Inn, we go to La Quinta, or La Quinta. And so he complained. He said I could bring the dog. I had the dog in the cage, like for a whole week when we was at my cousin's house, because he had a dog and they would fight. So in my mother's house, I set him free. So he was like, well, as long as he doesn't come downstairs, it's okay, because he had my grandmother's apartment was empty, so we were staying there. And so it was like, as long as he doesn't come downstairs, I could keep him out of the cage. So I felt bad for him being caged up, for 5 days. We took every opportunity, like, to walk him. At night, we let him out of the cage because we were in a closed room. We left him in the room with us because we felt bad. He was like for 5 days in that cage most of the time. So that week that I spent, like, I think it was 5 days in one place and like what it was, like 9 days in our house where we grew up in. And so I let him out of the cage. I let him roam free as long as he didn't go downstairs. And I think that he went downstairs for a second or whatever, or he heard that the dog wasn't locked up the whole time. And this was my last day there. My legs are propped up. And I heard my sister telling him, Dad, she's leaving tomorrow. Just leave it alone. I heard that. And then he's coming up the stairs stomping. And okay, so he's going to belittle me, right? No. He started belittling my kids. And at the time, they were like, 17 and 19, or maybe 15 and 17, I don't know. And my kids suffer from their mental disabilities. And I'm Mama Bear. And he started in on my kids. And my sister was in shock because she could not believe that he was belittling my kids or condescending to them. And it hadn't done to do with them. It was me. And so I was like, I was like, what are you doing? And then, we got into a little argument. He's making me feel small. My sister just left. And I was kind of like, felt bad that she didn't stick up for me. And ever since she had her baby, she just tries her best not to get into conflict. And so she called, so then I don't remember if I think she called me first. Or she called me before I left and said, does Daddy always treat you like that? And I was like, yeah. And she says, he never treats me that way. And she said, you should talk to him. And, we were already on our way to New York. And I said, well, I come every year. I'll talk to him. I want to talk to him face to face on this one. Because on the phone, he's just going to belittle me. He could hang up on me, interrupt me, and do all the stuff he usually does. So when it's a 12 to 13 hour trip. It really only takes 8 hours, but you're stopping so much. We had to stop to walk the dog. We stopped for ourselves to eat, stopped to go to the bathroom, all that crap. And so it's a good 12 to 13 hour trip. And the minute we got in, I just sat down and cried my eyes out. And I said, that's the last time he makes me cry like that. He makes me cry all the time. My Husband has seen how he spoils my half sister and how badly he treats me, and he couldn't believe it either. He remember just makes me cry all the time. My husband's like just putting my head's on his shoulder, crying, and I said, this is the last time he's gonna do this to me. And so throughout the year, we barely talked. I just didn't want to talk to him because I was so angry. And the times that we did talk, he was standoffish and, had an attitude. And then finally, I don't know what happened. I think I wound up in the hospital, one of the worst kidney stone incidences I ever had. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to go to New York this time. So I wrote a letter and, telling him, you are not going to treat me this way anymore. Because if you don't treat my sister that way, and you don't treat my half-sister that way, you're not treating me this way anymore. That's going to stop. I said, I'm tired of you calling me up and making me feel bad that I don't live there anymore. And, I took away your kids, and my grandmother's dying, and this, that, and the other, and then you have cancer, and I can't. He never came to visit me. I mean, I had to drive there with 2 kids. He could jump on a plane and come. And he was like that. He mentioned that he didn't want to leave his third family. Not just my half sister. Now I'm talking about another family he's with. And I said, I don't care. You're all welcome. I said like that. And my mother knew she would have killed me. He never came. I said, well, you can stay in a hotel, and still come visit me. No, but yet I was supposed to go up there all the time. And I didn't have money for a plane. We always drove up there, and it was a lot with 2 kids and a dog. So I was like, I told him, you're not doing this to me anymore. Because if you can treat my middle sister that way, I'm the oldest. If you can treat my half sister that way, then you can treat me with love and respect too. And I said, the reason that me and my half sister aren't talking is because you gave me a secret that you didn't want her to know, and she's all mad at me, and I'm backing you up. I could have told her, but I didn't. So this is really, it's your fault that this is happening because he's so secretive. And I was like, so, all I'm asking is that you love and respect me the way you do them. And I said, and I ended that letter by saying, I love you. I just want you to love me back. That's how I ended that letter. Well, my middle sister was after me to tell him. She didn't like that I put her in that letter, and she's always been the type of person that she would tell you off in a heartbeat and curse you in a heartbeat. And she, I don't care what that is. I do and say what I want, right? But now that I put her in the letter, she wanted me to change the letter, and I was like, no. When I write something, I put my heart and soul and thought into it before I send it. I would change it 1,000 times till I think it's right. And I said, I'm not changing this. This is what I got. And she was like upset. Like she had to help me write the letter. I'm like, no, I don't need you to help me write the letter. This is between me and him. But I mentioned her saying she was a witness because my father has selective memory. Say, I don't remember. That's his thing. I don't remember. Well, my sister was there. So she runs to my father's house and says, oh, you better expect an angry letter for Charlene. So what does she just do there? Set the stage. Now, me and my father have argued in the past, and a week later when both of us have calmed down, he'll come to me and say, look, now that we're not angry, can we talk this over? That's what I expected. That letter, she says, oh, it's an angry letter. And then so she told him. And so now when he sees that letter, he doesn't see a hurt child. He sees anger. And me and my sister got into an argument because, again, she's imposing her thoughts and her feelings onto me as facts. And I made some life decisions that offended her. And so she's getting on me about that. It's my life. I'm not going to do what you think is best for my life. And my sister's always been the judgmental type of person. And yet when you say to her, but didn't you do that? Oh, I don't want to talk about it. It was like that. And then sometimes she would get on my case about a decision I made. And then later on, she wound up doing the same thing. But if you mention that to her, I don't remember. Or I don't want to talk about it. And then if you try to talk about it, you're the one who's being argumentative. So she can say whatever she wants to you, but you're not allowed to say, what you have to say to her. And so we got into a really bad argument back then. And so my father chose not to talk to me 7.5, 8 years ago. And me and her barely spoke. I wouldn't say we were angry and not talking. We just barely spoke. She did send me a card for Christmas saying, I'm sorry that I disappointed you. And I sent her a card back saying, not disappointed, just hurt. And I said, but I'm glad that, we're able, you sent me a card. And so we holidays, send cards or whatever. Maybe, that was it. We didn't really call each other. We didn't really talk to each other, but it wasn't that we weren't talking to each other. When she came 2 years ago, she asked if we could, hang out. And I'm not sure what she expected, but I was just so happy to see her. I've been away from family for 15 years. And this would have been like the first Christmas. The first Christmas with the family. Because the first Christmas with the family was rough because it was the separation of my brother and his wife. So I think it was the second Christmas with the family. So it was, I was just so happy to see her. It's like we're all together again. Me, my brother, my sister, we're all together again. It was like she came for New Year's actually, and I said, well, come to my house. I mean, I busted my behind to clean my house like I never cleaned it before. I have a bad back. And she was kind of hesitant. And I was like, what is she expecting? Maybe she thought that we were going to hash out what happened 7 years ago. I was just happy to see her. I don't know why. I just felt that it's been 7 years. Let's be bygones be bygones. She was hesitant, but she finally came. I don't know what she was expecting, but I think at first she was very tense. And I just hugged my niece. I hadn't seen my niece in 8 years. And I wish I was closer to the family. All my heart, I wanted to live with my family so I could be in the lives of my nieces and my nephews. And I was getting that with my brother. But because me and my sister barely spoke, I only saw her when she was a year old. And so I was just so happy to hug her. And I just kept hugging her. And she was like kind of afraid. I don't know what they expected, but I gave them a hug. I was just so happy to see them. And, so for the next, she was here for 5 days. So I just tried to she came to my house that one day and then I drove to my brother's for the next few days and tried to spend as many days with them as possible. It was the first New Year's that I didn't cry because I missed my family so much. And it was the first, I'm crying now, but it was the first New Year's in like 15 years that I didn't cry. It just felt right. I even took a picture of us together. I was just so happy. I was just sad that my niece, my brother's girls couldn't be here because the mother had them. So, I felt, like our relationship had been restored again. That's how I felt. And unfortunately, here we are, 2 years later, and she called me New Year's. I think it was the day after Christmas, or a couple of days after Christmas. She called me to tell me that my father. Well, actually, my brother told me. She asked my brother not to say anything, but he told me, and I broke down because all the hurt came out. All the hurt came out that he would not talk to me, that how could he be that way? He hasn't even, talked to the kids. He says, why can't the kids call him up? Because they're mentally, disabled. I try to get them to call as best I can, but they're uncomfortable talking to him. It's like very uncomfortable. It's awkward. But, he's the adult, so to speak. He's the father. He's the grandfather. He stopped sending them birthday cards. He stopped sending them Christmas cards. And so it just really hurt me, that he was like that. And, my brother moved with the girls. He got Skype. He got a computer. And he gave them the email. He didn't want to know it. Again, very private person. I was like, they didn't do that to me when I moved. He's just making me feel guilty. But he never asked me to Skype with him for the kids or anything. He Skyped with him so he could see the girls, my nieces. And so I was just saying, I'm just really, really hurt how he could do that. And then on top of that, my oldest lived there and he really treated her bad sometimes and then told her to call me and he kicked her out of the house. She was living in my grandmother's old apartment. She was paying us a minimal amount of rent because he uses half the apartment for his private records. And he was just downright mean to me, and he kicked her out because her boyfriend came over. and he didn't want her boyfriend in the apartment. I'm like, hello, this is the year 2000 and something. I can understand if he was a Christian, a devoted Christian, and oh, that's a sin. But no, it's just his pride. It's just his old-fashioned Puerto Rican pride. And my daughter stuck up for herself, and just like I stuck up for my kids, and he kicked her out. So my daughter was in the street and lost everything. She lost everything. And that at that point, I felt like I hated him. And I had to go through a process of forgiving him for that. At that point, if he even tried to talk to me, I would have cursed him out. But I was like, after that, again, I went through this whole process of forgiving him. If he would have called me, I would have, been hesitant, but welcomed him with open arms. But he never did, and I was okay with that. I was at peace with my decision. I was at peace that he can't hurt me anymore. And I will not give him that power over me ever again. And if he doesn't want to call me, then say la vie, So my sister calls me up my brother told me first. I tried to play it off that I didn't know. But, I felt bad. I don't want my father to suffer. I still love my father. I didn't want him to suffer and hurt. And he was really suffering. And so she says, he's dying and he won't call you, so you should call him. I'm like, that's not going to happen. She's like, well, I don't care. And everything I said was an argument. I'm not trying to start an argument with you. I'm just telling you how I feel. And so she's like, well, look, I'm just under a lot of stress, so I'm going to go. I was like, fine. But then I could tell that my brother wants me to call him, but he doesn't say anything. Sometimes you can just tell in the silence more than what the words that are spoken. My cousin finds out, and my cousin came to visit last month, and I was so happy because I hadn't seen him in about 3 years, and I'm very, very close to him. And the whole time he was here, he was here for like 7 hours, probably a good 4 hours. He was up my butt to call my father. I was just so frustrated. I was just crying the whole time. Again, just expressing my feelings. He says, you're so angry. I said, I'm Puerto Rican. That's how I express myself. I said, but it's not anger. It's hurt. And I was just bawling. And he's like, you know what? I can see that you're in a lot of pain. And he left me alone. But then the texts started coming, and him, and then I sent the package, and my sister poo-pooed it, and that wasn't enough for my father, and we got into that whole big argument 2 weeks ago, and I was furious, and but again, I told her, look, I don't want to fight with you. And my brother went out there, just jumped on a plane without he got permission from somebody, but it wasn't official, to leave his job for a month. And just jumped on a plane and went out there. And I just decided that if I want updates, it's going to be through my brother. Because, she was, oh, you're bothering. And, she said she didn't say that. But she said that I should look back through the text. And I did. And she was just downright. She said it was me. But whatever. I told her, look, I'm not going to bother you ever again for anything. Because when she gets like that, I finally realized. So my brother was giving me updates, but he was doing it in a way that, was trying to get me to call my dad. And then my cousin's texting me, you got to call your father. It's like, did we not just go over this for 4 hours when you came to visit me? So, because my sister said no. And my cousin said something funny. Oh, I guess you and your dad are in an impasse. This isn't a game of chess. And I'm wondering, is that what my father thinks, that this is a game? And I felt like, look, I know you're hurting and I know you're suffering, but you chose not to speak to me for 7 years. But, because you're dying doesn't give you a get out of jail free card, You're the one who chose not to speak to me. And I was afraid that if I called him, that his last words to me were going to be to belittle me and all that stuff. And I was like, I'm not going to do that to myself. I'm not going to do that to myself. If he really wants to call in peace, then, if he wants to really speak to me peacefully, then he'll make that move. And nope, nothing. And I got, this isn't a game of chess. It's not a game to me. I'm not going to allow myself to be hurt again. I'm not giving him that power over me right before he dies. And, because I'm the one who's going to live with the effects of that. And I was just trying so hard not to get hurt. But it hurt me so bad that my family was like against me like that. I could not believe it. And they argued with him and pleaded and begged with him. You regretted not talking to your brother. You need to talk to your daughter. No, she doesn't love me. I don't love him. You're the one who, he's the one who chose not to talk to me for 7 years. That hurt me. So anyway, my brother texted me and said, your father has 24 hours. Our father has 24 hours to live. And he's been mentioning you. He's been asking about you. And I said, but I sent him a card saying I love him. You know how Dad is. I said, okay, so I know I know how he is. So if he really wants to speak to me, he will talk to me. And so that made me anxious. I wish that I could afford to have gone to New York. But then again, my half-sister has not talking to me. She is a spoiled brat. And the last time that I was in New York, she did everything in her power to come between me and my father. It's like, girl, you have him to yourself 24/7. I come here once a year. And I just knew if she was in charge of the funeral, I already knew that it was going to be bad. So I really didn't want to, I honestly did not want to go there just to put myself in a bad situation. And the fact that my mom wasn't talking to me and she won't tell me why she's not talking to me. I tried to talk to her. She won't talk to me. I was like, so where exactly am I going to stay? Me and my sister, aren't exactly, we made up, so to speak, but I don't feel welcome there. I don't feel welcome at my sister's. I don't feel welcome at my mother's. And I'm certainly not going to stay with my half-sister, that's for sure. Because, she's just downright mean all the time, not just when she's stressed. Where am I supposed to stay? Because my father's not going to let me stay in his house, with his third family. And that's another thing. For 15 years, I said, look, you introduced me to my half-sister. We should have a relationship with our baby sister. He refused. But what does he do? He introduced her to my brothers and my other two sisters, but not to me. That hurt me so bad. She didn't even know I existed. I'm like so you see where my father wouldn't even tell them I existed. And I forever will not get that because my half-sister's spoiled. My middle sister will stand up to him, but I'm not allowed to stand up to him. So anyway, what was I going to do? So I was like that. It just wouldn't have been, I just would have had no place to stay where I was welcome. So what was I going to do? And so, but then I started thinking, I'm a Christian. And this is cliche, but what would Jesus want me to do? And pride, to me, it wasn't about pride. It was about self-preservation. I didn't want to get my head on my stuff for another couple of years. And I said, I remembered a Bible verse that said, love casts out fear. And if I really loved him, my main reason for not calling him was fear that he was going to hurt me. And if I really loved him, would I give this dying man, as prideful as he is, his dying wish of calling him, whether it was a game or whatever, to him? And so when my brother, I just really started thinking about it. So I told my brother, look, if you call me and put the phone to his ears, I don't even have his phone number. I'll talk to him. And my daughter says, Mom, come on, you got to talk to him. He is so bad. He looks so bad. He's so hurt. He's so in so much pain. He's suffering so much. Mom, you should call him. So she says, I'll give you his number. But I'm like, I can't call him because he was so drugged up. So I told my brother, when he wakes up, call me and put the phone to his ear. And so, I told him, when my brother didn't call me till a day later. And he put the phone to his ear and I told him, I said, look, Dad, I always loved you. And I always will. And I'm sorry I can't be there. And he got excited, and his voice, I can't even imagine my father going what he went through. This was this big, strong, tough man, and he couldn't even talk. He was whimpering. He was letting out these high-pitched grunts, like that. I couldn't even imagine that my father would be that way. He used to say to me that before he ever got like that, to kill him, that he never wanted to be like that. he tried so hard to talk to me, and he whispered my name, and I barely heard him. Everyone else was there and they heard him. I didn't hear him, and that was like the last thing he said. He kept pointing to the root beer, or like, so what happened was that he said my name, and I said I said what I had to say, and then they had me on speakerphone. I'm telling my brother I can't hear him, and he's saying wait, he wants you to wait, he wants you to talk. He was trying to sit up because he was so weak. He was trying to sit up. He was trying to talk, and nothing would come out of his mouth. And I guess he wanted to tell me. I would like to think he wanted to tell me he loved me back, but he so badly wanted to talk to me, and all I kept hearing was these grunts, and he was pointing to the root beer because it's all he could have, because he had, it was all in his digestive system, the cancer, and he would throw everything up. But the root beer he could tolerate little sips of, and he couldn't talk because all the vomit, from the acid just burned his throat. He couldn't even talk. All he could do was whisper. And my baby sister saw him like that. She's a doctor, by the way. I mean, my middle sister is a psychologist, but she's like a full-blown doctor. And she saw him like that, and she's like, we have to give him his meds now. And I kind of felt hurt. It was like, this is the first and last time I've heard from his voice in 7 years, and last time I would speak to him, and they didn't let him even try to whisper something to me. And my brother said, I'm sorry, they're gonna sedate him when he wakes up. I'll call you back. And he woke up for a few seconds, and my cousin said, are you happy that Charlene called? And he just nodded like this. And then he fell back asleep. The next day, he woke up, but he couldn't even open up his eyes. And then he took his last few breaths, and he went. And I was just really, really happy that I could give him that peace that he wanted before he died, because I realized it wasn't about me. I just needed to put all that hurt aside and be selfless and give him that. And so I was okay. I mean, I wanted to talk to him, but it wasn't like I needed him to apologize or anything like that. And, my husband had to go away, so that's just great. He had to go away to this weekend thingy for leaders. And so I'm just alone here. And my sister calls me and says he made amends with everyone. And we begged him to make amends with you, our cousin and me, and he wouldn't. I honestly, the things that she says, I don't think she realizes it. People think she's being manipulative, but I honestly think she just doesn't realize what she says or what she's doing. And that hurt me tremendously. That his own daughter, he made amends with everyone but his own daughter. Some of the amends was kind of self-seeking, like speaking to his 3 women and saying, please don't treat my other children bad. It's not their fault that I had an affair, and it's not their fault that I was never there for my other kids, so don't take it out on these kids. And he realizes he was a crappy father. He was a crappy father to us, but not to his 2 illegitimate daughters. Go figure. I don't know. But he lived with his mistress for the last 30 years. I don't know why my mom... Well, anyway, I guess, she was with him. Everything is hers now. The house is hers and all that, but... So, that just hurt me. And my cousin called, and I told him that. I said, how can he make amends with... your own child. Your own child. I couldn't imagine. My children are the most important thing in the world to me. And he's telling me, in the end, your father was a really good man, and... and he didn't remember any of the bad he had done. My cousin was telling me, because he was just such a good man to everyone, and I'm like, oh, so he's a good man to everyone but his own daughter? So I was emotionally exhausted. I was hurting about that for days. I'm still hurting, but I was crying for a few days. And then this is the first time I've cried in a few days, and just been so busy. So, it's sad that that's the way it was. And I got, a Facebook message, a meme, or whatever you want to call it, about, do you ever think about someone who died and cried so hard because you missed them? And I reposted that saying, yes, my grandmother, my aunt, and my cousin. And about an hour later, I realized I didn't even mention my father in that. And, it's unfortunate, but we didn't have a relationship for the past 7 years. Of course, that's not what I wanted, because let me tell you, I was a daddy's girl. I adored him and would have done anything for him, bent over backwards, except leave my family. I would have did whatever I could for him, until he started treating my kids like that. And I was like, that's, no, you did this for me for 40 some odd years. You're not doing this to my kids. And he couldn't handle that I stood up to him. He couldn't handle, my sister couldn't. And he spoils my half-sister. So I don't know anything about my baby sister because he would not let me know her. So it's unfortunate. My brother is fell to pieces, but his girlfriend went to visit him and helped him to grieve, and they went out and kept busy, and he'll be back next week. I think everyone's relieved that he's not suffering anymore and that this whole ordeal is over, though there's the other problems again. My half-sister's just making it hard for everybody. My baby sister, she keeps out of it. She just goes away. She lives in Chicago. She's lucky that she doesn't have to deal with all the drama. And I'm happy that I'm not there, because my half-sister is, causing trouble, and I think I would go crazy on her. So, causing trouble over the estate. She's in charge of it. So I doubt I'll see anything. Supposedly, I'm supposed to get a fifth of anything that he has, and everybody's fighting over there. Whatever. So I'm in a way, I'm glad I'm not there, because I would not tolerate my half-sister's crap. I would not tolerate. I'll go crazy. So yeah. So that's that. Hopefully these are the last tears I'll cry. I loved him. It probably won't be, but at least I hope the pain will lessen and lessen. And hey, I have my family. They've always been the most important thing to me. I have my Heavenly Father. He's my true father. And the one good thing that came out of it was my mom was all alone. Everybody was there in him and his mistress's house. And my mom was all alone. And the good thing that came out is that me and my mom are talking again. And I called her up, and, we spoke. And, I told her I'm sorry. She's all alone. She says that even though they weren't really married, I mean, they're still married, but, together, that when he went through cancer the first time, that she forgave him and they became friends. And now she has no friends. She's in her 70s and most of her friends died. So, and now she's all alone, So that's the good thing. At least we were able to talk, and, and she told me, my father said he wished that we weren't at odds. And I'm like, then why didn't he call me? And she said, she's like, you should have called him sooner. I said, well, at least I called him, right? So, that's that. So anyway, that's that. And next week, I gotta go rush to an appointment now, and then next week I'll do Cool as a Cucumber. That's another display that Wet n Wild has. Cool as a Cucumber in their little St. Patrick's Day little small display. So okay, I love you all, and next week, that's what I want to do, hopefully. And all right.